Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee Books and Rain. I'm Rachel with my coffee, with my books and my reviews. No rain, but we do have some nice overcast weather, so it's feeling like fall on this particular day. I did have to move some stuff around in my apartment and clean things out, so I'm not wearing my flannel the way I probably would be. I got a little hot. But we are diving into books, and today's first book is The Shocking Experiments of Miss Mary Bennet. And I absolutely picked this up because it looked so incredibly cute, and I was pleasantly surprised. So it is by Melinda Taub, and it is expected publication of, let me look real quick, October 7th, 2025. So I do plan to try to release this on or around its date of release. I actually have quite a few books that are due on or around the 7th, so I'm just going to have to try to get them all in there. Now, I have accidentally already missed at least one day this month of October, which is going to put me back just a little bit because I have a bajillion books due in October. And great thing is I've got quite a few audiobooks that I can listen to while I'm having to do some of the stuff that I need to do. And then in the evenings and in the mornings is when I tend to read the actual ebooks. But let's dive into The Shocking Experiments of Miss Mary Bennet. And I'm just going to say real quick, can titles get any longer? Because I'm just maybe we put a 5-word count on a title. Only because sometimes when I'm writing these down, I'm like, come on. But anyway, it's a mouthful. An utterly fantastical and undeniably queer melding of Pride and Prejudice and Frankenstein that recasts Mary Bennet as an insatiable scientist who creates a monster in an attempt to save herself from spinsterdom. Mary Bennet is the middlest middle child of all time. Awkward, plain, and overlooked, she's been out of favor not only with her own family, but with generations of readers of Pride and Prejudice. But what was Mary really doing when her sisters were falling in love? Well, what does any bright, hard-working girl do in an age where brains and hard work are only valued if they come with a pretty face? Take to the attic and teach herself to reanimate the dead, of course. Of course, that's what we all do when we're just kind of bored and feeling left out of our families. Well, the world refuses to make a place for peculiar Mary, but no Bennet sister has ever given up on happiness that easily. If it won't give this fierce, lonely girl a place, she'll carve one out herself. And if finding acceptance requires a husband, she'll get one, even if she has to make him herself too. However, Mary's genius and determination aren't enough to control what she unwittingly unleashes. Her desperate attempt to rein in the destruction wreaked by her creation leads her to forge a perhaps unlikely friendship with another brilliant young woman, unlike any she's ever known. And that friendship blossoms into something passionate and all-consuming. Mary begins to realize that she may have to choose between the acceptance she's always fought for and her true happiness. So it is considered science fiction mixed with historical fiction, which I think is a fantastic combination. I don't think we get that all that frequently. I think being able to merge that Frankenstein with the Pride and Prejudice is a really fascinating combination. And I think it worked out pretty well for Melinda Taub. I do see currently she's got over 4 stars on Goodreads, and I would give her a solid 4 stars for this one. Now, I'm going to be completely and utterly honest with you all, is that I not the biggest fan of Pride and Prejudice, only because I got bored. It's not my cup of tea. I don't think I'm really kind of Regency period material. Stuff like Bridgerton and Downton Abbey are not really what I gravitate towards, and I know that a lot of people really like those. So, hey, I'm glad that you found some things you love. For me, not really my favorite, but doesn't mean that I don't have an appreciation for it. I have taken a class that really studied a lot of those pieces of literature, and I understand how they have withstood this test of time, but I guess if I were to pick between Pride and Prejudice or Frankenstein, I'm probably going to pick up Frankenstein. I think Mary Shelley was fantastic, and I thought Frankenstein was really well done. So, with that, I do think that, is it that Mary Shelley was like the female founding of like kind of horror? Is it something like that? I could be completely off base, but I was trying to remember off the top of my head while I'm just staring at my ring light. But I remember watching, what was it, Drunk History, when they reenacted kind of like them sitting around the table, Mary Shelley and Percy Shelley and a couple other individuals, and over that weekend or what have you of like a impromptu writing club, they created some really fantastic works during that weekend, and Frankenstein was one of them. So the fact that Frankenstein was already originally a female creation kind of like takes this to another level for me. And so I probably know Frankenstein a little bit more, I guess a little better than I do Pride and Prejudice. I don't watch the movies and stuff, so I apologize. However, again, I can appreciate it. And I like that we focus on Mary because she was considered to be the ugly sister. And I think, if someone were a little bit more plain or a little less intriguing, Mary has so much that's really intriguing about her. And I don't know, maybe we just focused on the other sisters previously because they had a pretty face or what have you, or I don't know, whatever was important to them at that time, and Mary just didn't fit that mold. So because she didn't seem as though she was going to make a good match with someone like, I guess, a little more well-to-do, then she was kind of overlooked a little bit. And I think her being a scientist and having this like curiosity, I found her to be fascinating, especially in this telling, because they do try to like, I don't think they try to make her interesting. I think just the way she's described in this book comes across as very interesting, which makes me go, well, maybe she had a lot more to offer than what they were looking for anyway. Those guys were boring at that time anyway, and we're all about like doing the quadrilles and doing little box step dances or what have you, and looking good on paper. But when Mary finds a friend in, her name is Septimus, after him. She is able to then discover that, he's not what she was led to believe and all this sort of stuff. She really does kind of like start to find confidence in herself. And so Septimus Pike, I said he is just kind of I don't want to say charlatan, but just kind of a crappy person. And Mary's just trying to kind of find her place, which I think is really kind of what we're all trying to do. And I guess literature gives her sisters a place, but they don't really give Mary like the best outcome. And I will say, just kind of glancing very quickly through some of these like other comments, is that a lot of other individuals find this to be one of the more interesting retellings of Pride and Prejudice. I think the one official Pride and Prejudice that I read was Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. And it's really the exact telling of Pride and Prejudice with just some zombies in a couple of scenes, which, I mean, is very fun if you are at a ball or house event or what have you, and then you throw in zombies like out on the lawn or coming through a window or what have you. Makes it pretty fun. That's my way of enjoying Pride and Prejudice. And anyway, and so of course we also get the Frankenstein part as well, because Mary decides that if she is unable to find a match in society, one that is, I guess, accepted by her family, then maybe she'll just have to make one. And perhaps then she will not be considered an outcast by her family because she will have come into her own as a woman. And I kind of hate that for her. Like, I hate that mindset. And of course, I'm so glad I didn't grow up in that time period. I'm glad that was not when I was kind of out here in the world. Because there were just a lot of, I don't know, I guess expectations that I just I don't appreciate. Well, we see her trying to figure out how to do what what Victor Frankenstein did with his monster, and pretty much bring back those recently deceased, or at least one. But even with Frankenstein, the monster goes rogue anyway, so I guess it's not a spoiler to say that things go downhill pretty fast for Mary as well. I think it's pretty expected that this is not going to go to plan. So from that point, it just continued to be engaging and fairly exciting. Now, it's not perfect. There are a couple of slow points for me. And again, I don't think there's any real spoilers other than the relationships. I don't think potentially that people would have expected Pride and Prejudice meets Frankenstein meets a sapphic relationship. And honestly, for me, it worked really well. I thought it was really fun, and I'm just so happy for Mary ultimately, because I do think that she deserves a happy ending with the way everyone was treating her. And it is a little bit more diary-esque style writing. So that was a pretty fun way to kind of have it come across as well. I'm just kind of glancing. So this one individual, Erin Hawley, says, if you're looking for an offbeat Regency retelling with Gothic vibes, I think this will be of interest to you. And so I agree with that, because I do enjoy the Gothic vibes. I think that's where the Frankenstein, the lightning and the rain and dark and brooding, things in the shadows. I like it. The atmosphere, it gets me. It really, or I get it. I don't get that with Pride and Prejudice. Pride and Prejudice, for me, just like the OG. And it's probably on my shelf in the other room. I have a dozen books. A dozen. I think you can visibly see more than a dozen books back here behind me. But I have far more in the other room, and they're double and triple stacked on the shelves. But it will make you, it made me laugh, and it made me kind of chuckle, and nothing overly suspenseful or mysterious or thrilling. But it's not cozy either. I guess that's just where that historic sci-fi vibe works. And I'm just trying to see, do we see anything else we want to mention? This person just highlights that there's mad scientist archetype, found family and queer romance, and gothic science fiction mashup. So Kat Pemberley and Beyond, she makes that note, and so I just want to give her a shout out to kind of giving those little highlights of the things that are encapsulated within this book. Again, I found it fun, and kind of takes those tropes you're familiar with creating a new story that kind of goes in a slightly different direction. And so I'm here for it. I like when these retelling and reimaginings are able to give me something even more exciting than the first or original source piece. And so I will definitely be picking up anything else that Melinda Taub kind of has written, because I think that her style is something that I'm pretty engaged with. So if you honestly, so now I'm waiting for someone to write a Wuthering Heights that is going to actually captivate me in some way, because I had to study that thing so much in my master's program that I'm just about done with Heathcliff and whoever. I just forget, because I'm just done at this point. It's a toxic relationship like Bella and Edward. It's just a horrible relationship, and we all need to go to therapy and then move on. However, apparently it gets romanticized, like also Romeo and Juliet, where we're both 14 and they've known each other for 2 weeks or a week or something really ridiculously short. So, anyway, healthy relationships are better than tragic, toxic relationships. But hey, honestly, I think that's a trope in some of the dark romantasy. So hey, if that's for you, good on you. I think I need healthy at this point. But with all of that being said, I'm going to go ahead and leave it here and let you decide if The Shocking Experiments of Miss Mary Bennet is something up your alley. I think it's worth considering if that's like the vibe you're looking for. Again, Regency with sci-fi with a little gothic. Consider it. But until next time, I want to thank you all so much for tuning in. If you have not liked and subscribed, I hope you will. And I will see you all on the next page. Have a great one.